Hi everyone, Balu and Chaprachu here. Honest to God, I didn't expect this video to do this well. I mean, it's like the first one that break through 5k view for me. So what's there to do than making this into a series and milk it for sweet internet clout? Thank you for your suggestion, because I really don't know what unit should I do or can they be safe next. You guys are very big help. Also, if you have never watched this particular video, I'd be very happy if you would pause this video, the one you are listening or watching right now, and watch this video through the pop-up, the eye thingy here, to know what it's like in the series. Just in case you didn't watch the Japan and Balu video, I'll be brief about the criteria for making buff or changes for the characters of topic. 1. It won't result in Mihoyo in this hypothetical scenario make new animation. However, an addition to UI, new icon, or new visual effect is a-okay. 2. I'll try to make them not as broken as the newer, shinier units. I mean, Mihoyo still has to make money after all. All the buff and changes is just to bring the characters of topic up to speed with current game state. With that out of the way, let's get into the meat of this video. Wolfe and Preservation Trailblazer are arguably two of the most hyped units in the first year. And as we are at exam, but you cannot tell me otherwise. Wolfe being a variant of Bronia alone is more than enough for some, or well, many, to be looking forward for her release. PMC, to this day, this is still the best moment of MC getting a new path, adding to the excitement, aka the hype factor, when every new player ends up getting them. By them I mean either Slayer or Killers. Yet, all of them found themselves in the gutter of irrelevancy. Ironically enough, both of them suffer from something I like to call Year 1 Unit Syndrome. It's a common problem in every long-running gacha games. The symptoms stem from developers didn't really know what they are doing or what will be their game direction. This isn't me saying it's all their fault, by the way. The power level disparity of Year 1 unit can be very varied. You want an example? Look at Amber and Xiangling in Genshin Impact. Unlike the Part and Bailu pair, where one is kinda more interesting than another, both of these units are very interesting to talk about, so I'll let the coin flip decide. If it's head, Wolfe first. If it's tail, PMC first. Three heads! Wolfe first then! I have no doubt that some of the old players probably dubbed her the most overhyped unit due to how seemingly broken, or at least being a massive quality of life improvement in regard to the most important basic mechanic, elemental weakness, and toughest bar. My pet peeve about Star Rail is that you cannot use neutral elements to interact with the system. I can understand why they choose to go this route, but it still feels rather restrictive and not fun when you don't have the exact elemental weakness. I wish attack outside the elemental weakness would do like 30% or 50% of the original toughness damage. And this pet peeve is still true to this day, by the way. When Wolfe was released with the ability to kinda fix, quote-unquote, my pet peeve on top of her damage amplification, I kinda took interest in her, so I roll for her in a building pity sense. If I got her, great! I wouldn't mind getting her. If I didn't, nothing loses. Good thing I wasn't into min-maxing or trying to 30 stars MOC, and I luck-sacked her, so I can understand the frustration or the disappointment of anyone who intentionally rolls for her. Because her gameplay, while great, has some big caveats. Wolfe falls into a role of debuffer, a role that got a short end on the stick in Star Rail. I mean, just compared to her buffer counterpart, Bronia. Both offer damage amplification, but Bronia provide other things on top of damage amp. Extra turn for your damage dealer, single target cleanse, party-wide speed buff, using Hacker Space Set, targeting ally claws, and just this one alone give Bronia the edge to be considered using her over Wolfe. And That's just an unfortunate running theme for Harmony versus Mihoyo units when it comes to usability. Both have the same role, but Harmony units' utility is just that much better. And I think I saw someone did a calculation on defense reduction, and it turns out defense reduction isn't exactly as good as just directly buffing your damage dealer. To add salt to the soon-to-be injury, her weakness implant, the very thing that makes her so unique, also comes with its own problem. If you have ever used her just for her weakness implantation, you will know how inconsistent it is. Due to it is RNG based and the pool of elements she can implant depends on your team composition. I don't know how it works exactly, by that I mean the logic behind the RNG. But from the description, I'd assume that each element have equal chances. Meaning if you put her in a rainbow team, you might as well not using her skill since it's only like 1/4 of the chance for her to implant the correct element. And unfortunately, during the time she was released, she was usually got paired with Bronia. If you are going to use her skill to implant weakness, you have at least 2 elements to concern about, and before Lynx was released, none of the sustain unit had the same element as either of them, so that's 3 elements to mess up your damage. So the best damage dealer for minimizing her RNG aspect at the time would have been just Blade, Non-Dragon Daniel, Sele, and Xingxue. And the pain doesn't just and the pain doesn't stop just here, okay? This clause in her skill make it so that you have to implant weakness into the enemy, and as I mentioned, at the time there weren't enough units to minimizing the RNG aspect of her skill, so some of the player opted for not using her skill entirely, and yes, I'm one of them. Sure, she has like 10 or 13% all-time resistance reduction, but I know there will be people who would actually spend 1 SP just for 10% more damage. Without her skill, she is relegated to being a normal attack and ultimate bot, which thankfully, those things is actually pretty damn good. 45% defense reduction on her ultimate is probably the highest defense reduction percentage on any single skill or move, even to this day. And her normal attack can inflict 3 different debuffs: attack down, defense reduction, and speed reduction. I am not going to go through her entire kit, but I will total her damage and capabilities. 53% defense reduction, 20% implanted element resistance reduction, 10 or 13% all type resistance reduction.
That's quite big. Impressive.
But as we all know, all of this is on single target. And this, on top of the flaw of her skill, would put her in a position where her direct competitor at the time, Payla, a 4-star unit, outright has more usage than her, or at least the community perceived them to have similar performance. And by the virtue of being a 4-star, Payla is considerably cheaper to build. Sure, her defense reduction is at a lower percentage, but she is more than makes up for that by 1. She inflicts AoE defense reduction, while her ultimate, 2. Defense reduction through her ult essentially have 100% uptime, on top of being a SP neutral or positive units. This situation might look like a bit of a bad design, depends on your perspective of course. I mean, why would a limited 5-star unit is way more niche than their 4-star counterpart? But it is a sensible outcome given the context and circumstance of Zero Wolf released. During that time, the only debuff was Payla. She inflicted AoE defense reduction. So, what's the next step to take? A single target debuffer that provides higher defense reduction percentage and other utility. That way, in theory, it would be a fair and very healthy trade-off, especially for free-to-play and game design. Single target damage versus spread out damage. And as we know it, because well, we are living in the current timeline, things got even worse for Zero Wolf when Mihoyo shifted their design philosophy from making generally great unit of their role to making unit that requires specific team or teammate, or unit that supports certain archetype. So, generalists like Well and Zero Wolf failed off really hard. But it's not all doom and gloom for Zero Wolf, as she still has some teams that she can comfortably fit right in. Notable teams, and probably the only 2 teams, I think, are E0 or E1 Yomi and Mono Quantum team. Senpai! Reshu Takase no team wa dou desu ka? I mean, yeah? she could work in ratio team, but those team got Aventurine, Mitsuki, Topaz, Mose, Robin, and those units are more than enough to maintain ratio condition. Using Sarah Wolfe in that team is kinda cold, to be honest. でも、先輩の7日がトーパースのコインツーが持っている。Hey, if it's work, it's work, However, those teams also have problem for her. Monoquantum is, well, it's hella expensive. Minus damage dealer, since we can use Qingxue as a free-to-play option, the team needs 2 other limited 5-star units, but it's a gacha game, so that's kind of a given problem, so this is up to you to decide if she and the team is worth it. Okay, let's move on to E0 and E1 Yomi team. This is actually a godsend for her, as Yomi Kid and her complement each other really, really well. So I think she can be in the premium E0/E1 Yomi team, which I don't know if it's optimal or not. Sir Wolfe can focus on single target debuff while Yomi can just clear the entire screen. So what's the problem here again? From what I have seen discussion on YouTube and other social media platforms, turns out using Robin will give Yomi enough damage to surpass 3 Nihility unit team. Which I don't know if this is true or not, but if it's true, that's a massive opportunity cost. So practically, she doesn't really need the fix if you use her with E0 or E1 Yomi. By the way, this is a field crafting. Please do not take my statement seriously. I have no numbers to prove that. But for the spirit of the video, let's do it. Let's give something nice to her. You see these 2 major traces? Let's combine them into 1 trace and give them, after Sir Wolfe attack an enemy, extend her own debuff on the enemy by 1 turn. And this will be her replacement of the second major trace. After Sir Wolfe attack, advance Sir Wolfe next action according to the amount of debuff on the attacked enemy. 1 debuff, advance next action by 25%. 2 debuffs, advance next action by 50%. 3 debuffs, advance next action by 75%. After apply debuff to the enemy, gains 5 energy. This effect can trigger again after 1 turn. Sir Wolfe gain break effect equal to 100% of her current effect hit rate. This is to help her in a scenario where there is multiple enemy and admittedly give her a meme potential with break effect. Mihoyo ไม่ทำอะไรงั้นหรอกนอกจากมันใช้เล่นในกิจกรรม Yeah, but this is our video. Let's have fun, ก็จริง break effect มางั้นก็ฟังดูน่าสนุกดี Next is her third major trace. Increase this part to 10%. I mean, come on! You can't really commit to her skill only to get something like borderline next to nothing increase to her damage.
Amplification.
With an addition of this, if there are 3 or more debuffs affecting the enemy when using ultimate, inflict all of Sir Wolfe debuff affecting targeted enemy to the adjacent enemies. And you know what? Let's be a little extra. Let's give this to her E2. If there are 3 or more debuffs affecting the enemy when using the ultimate, and no other enemy on the field beside the target, inflict additional 30% defense reduction, 15% attack reduction, and 20% speed reduction. And let's change how her weakness and plan RNG work. Hi! Eating me here. I actually forgot to give new stuff for her skill, and I don't have any better transition, so here it is. It's mostly the same, but delete this part and add this part. Inflict 20% damage resistance reduction of that type on the enemy for 2 turns. This damage resistance reduction is considered as weakness in plant, so that she doesn't feel like a niche unit or have a situation where her skill become useless. This is under the assumption that currently every element in the pool has an equal chance. The new RNG will be weighted RNG for consistency, or at least minimizing the frustration. The logic is destruction, hunt, erudition, and other nihility units elements will have higher chance of being applied, followed by quantum, and lastly followed by harmony, abundance, preservation units elements. As crazy as it looks, I would like to remind you that we are at the point this sort of stuff is rather tame. We have a single target team that has clear time of cycle relative to a team that can nuke the entire screen every 1 or 2 turns. Units that ignore core mechanic of the game. Robin and Runmei are literally this Jujutsu Kaisen panel. I will not mention anything about Sunday and Tingyun, the 5-star Tingyun, because I know nothing about these 2 actual performances, but from 2.7 preview program, things could get spicy. That would be how I wish Mihoyo would give Zero Wolf some buffs. So now, let's move on to our favorite trash can lover, Preservation Trailblazer. Oh goddamn massacre. I can't. But still though, Mihoyo did them very dirty. I have said it and I'll say it again. This is the hypest moment in all of Star Rail. So, the kid they give to our boy or girl really doesn't do this injustice. And I can't think of zero reason or justification Mihoyo make them this weak when it comes to sustaining. Given his alternatives are Bailu, Natasha, Japard, and Marsh. I can see what Mihoyo were trying to do, having them to be a middle ground between Mitsuki and Japard. Japard gives a big shield to the entire party through his ult. Nanoga gives a big shield to a single ally and the ability to action skip. So, let's make this unit provide a constant shield to the entire party with his enhanced basic attack, skill and ultimate, but at I'm pretty sure a Figma scale 4 inches dildo would be bigger than this. To be fair to Preservation Trailblazer, their kit doesn't revolve around just provide shield, they also provide damage reduction and sustain through toughness bar break. You could even say that Preservation Trailblazer and Himeko walk so Super Break team can hop on the train. Got it?
プロデューサーさん、私たち少し笑ってもいいですか？いや、先輩が悲しくなっている。
まあ、อย่างนี้บันเทิงกว่า But the problem with both of the option is they are very flawed. Breaking Talus bar to sustain will not be a viable option until the release of Teal Woman. Not to mention, this method only works on 5 weak bosses and elites, which are these bunches. Which is like 10, 11 if you count Cocolia final form. You would think that party-wide damage reduction might make up for their lackluster shield amount considering it has this much potency. But this potency only applies to them. The rest of the party only gets a measly 15% damage reduction. Okay, 15% DR isn't that much, but if it is at least, stay for a long time. Nah, it lasts for one turn. At this point, you, my schizophrenic-induced imaginary viewer, might say, what about Taunt? Isn't that like their shtick? And you're correct, that is their shtick. But the problem is, as the game has progressed, Taunt has become irrelevant. Many of the enemy these day and age has some sort of blast or AoE attack. Hell, even some of the normal enemy even have one of those now! Forcing enemy to target them did little to nothing to affect their combat, and their supposed offense-oriented sustain unit design doesn't help them at all. If anything, it worsened their current situation. Why? Their scaling is just too low and there is no energy to anything, to be honest. So, why did they have a split scaling when they're supposed to focus on defense and speed? How do- มึงเล่นผิดเลท Oh shit! You're right! They also want epic hit rates! I forgot about that! This offense-oriented sustain unit wants so many stats, but they have nothing in their kits to help with their required stats, so that player can actually put a work into grinding for their offensive stats. But with the release of Harmony Trailblazer, I will not be that reserved when it comes to buff Preservation Trailblazer, because honestly, HMC are quite literally enable Break to become a viable playstyle. No. That's not quite right. Become the meta playstyle! One of the meta, that is. With that in mind, this buffed Preservation Trailblazer will be a DOT support, as DOT has been, for lack of a better term, in a rock spot for quite a long time now. Let's go over their new talent first, as that would be the easiest and the best jumping off point. Besides the higher multiplier on their shield, it will have some change to how it works. In short, this will be a stackable shield. However, it will not be the same as Aventurine. While Aventurine can just pile shield on top of another whenever the player wants, the buff PMC shield will work like this. Their new kit will have a new variable to keep track of how much the shield has been depleted or used. It will always start at 0, and every time shield from any unit in the party is used or depleted, this will increase. Let's call this total shield lost, for the sake of my sanity keeping track of this thing in a sea of words, you know. So, this will be their new talent. Each time Trailblazers get hit, they gain 1 stack of Magma Will for a max stack of 8 stacks. When Magma Will has no fewer than 4 stack, the Trailblazer basic attack becomes enhanced, dealing damage to single enemy and enemies adjacent to it. When Magma Will reach 8 stacks, advance Trailblazer next action by 100%. When the Trailblazer use basic attack, skill, or ultimate, apply a shield to all allies that absorb damage equal to 5 to 10% of the Trailblazer defense plus 50 to 100 plus total shield lost divided by 4. The shield lasts for 3 turns. And since BMC is pretty much known for their basic and enhanced basic attack, that will be the next on our list. Deplete shield on every ally, then deals fire damage equal to this percent of Trailblazer attack to a single enemy and gain 1 stack of Magma will be their new basic attack. As for their new enhanced basic attack, consume 4 stack of Magma Will to enhance basic attack, deplete shield on every ally, and dealing fire damage equal to this percentage of Trailblazer defense to a single enemy, and fire damage equal to this percentage of the Trailblazer defense to the enemies adjacent to it. Now they actually scaled up defense, no more weird speed scale. I kinda spoiled that, I don't want... Okay, I'll not say any more about this. Let's move on. As for Gallantry Trace, this would be its replacement effect. Using enhanced basic attack, implant Searing Lance debuff on the main target. Searing Lance is considered as DOT, dealing damage equal to 150% of Trailblazer defense. Searing Lance lasts for 3 turns and cannot be stacked. Now, onto the most difficult part of this unit. And I'm serious, by the way, because of taunt and party-wide DR. As I have mentioned before, due to how the game is designed, taunt at this point is either niche or, well, useless. So I had 2 choices. Go all in on either one of the affirmation aspect or buff all of them. But here's the problem. If I go all in on taunt, how would I justify taunt existing in the game filled with multi-target attack? Do I make it so taunt put every damage instant that would deal to other party member onto them? Or do I make it so that every other member receives no damage from a taunt enemy? Regardless of the case, it would still equate to press E to gain 100% damage reduction for the entire party. And I don't think Styria is ready for that sort of stuff. So, this is the best I can come up with. If you have a better idea, please let me know. I can't really, balance this skill. Move this trace effect into the part of that skill with a higher multiplier, maybe at 20% DR, and give it a 2-turn duration. Remove taunt from this skill entirely is kinda useless after all, and increase the chance of this unit being targeted from enemy attack. And this will be their new major trace. When the Trailblazer is hit, receive damage or being targeted by enemy, the enemy receives 10% more damage for 3 turns. Now is the ultimate turn. Oh my. Inflict... Oh god, I shouldn't name this thing like this. I made a mistake! Inextinguishable Embers debuff to all enemies for 3 turns, then deal fire damage equal to this percentage of Trailblazer defense to all enemies. Trigger Searing Lance damage at 100%. Advance enemy next action by 75%. Enemy affected by Inextinguishable Embers receive 10% more damage and further receive 25% more DOT damage. Party member attack enemy with Inextinguishable Embers gain crowd control immunity for 1 time. This effect can proc 1 time per members and 1 time per ultimate cast. This is a clear DOT agenda, and there will be more of that. Okay, that's almost 2/3 of the kit. Oh god. I really shouldn't have taken on this idea. Way too many things to talk about. But before I'm getting any more off track, let's reveal their final traits. When the Trailblazer is protected by shield at the beginning of the turn, regenerate 5 energy. Gain 80% effect raise until the end of next turn and give every party member 15% attack increase for 2 turns. Look, I can understand if the advanced animation on the ultimate sounds bad, but since I want PMC to become DOT support, and I want Trailblazer to be able to help trigger DOT in some sort of way that isn't just here's Kafka's skill and ultimate sprinkled through their kit, so that is the conclusion I can come up with. Woo! We are finally at the final stretch of this video, so let's move on to PMC add-ons. I will be honest, 2 of these add-ons are usable, and 2 of these are might as well not exist. And I'm talking about how it affects the currently in-game PMC gameplay, by the way. For their new event, this is the effect. When the Trailblazer use their basic attack, additionally deals fire damage equal to 50% of Trailblazer defense. When the Trailblazers uses their enhanced basic attack, additionally deal fire damage equal to 75% of the Trailblazer defense. Additionally, deals fire damage equal to 30% of total shield loss. For E2, let's just scrap this, to be honest. Well, it's not really scrap it, but new wording. The shield applied to our allies from the Trailblazer talent can block 20% more damage. If the Trailblazer was hit while the shield is active, trigger an instance of Searing Lance damage on the attacking enemy. The last part of E2 felt like a poor man's Aventurian kit, but just for DOT. But hey, since they're supposed to be offense-oriented, it's only fitting if they can deal damage in some way. Enhanced basic attack grant 1 stack of Magma Will. Searing Lance deals more damage equal to 100% of total amount of shield loss at a maximum of 100,000 damage. This is simply just more damage for the E4. For the last items, besides the higher numbers on the old effect, there will be additional of every 100 defense higher than 3000, enemy affected by inextinguishable embers have 5% chance to suffer 50% more DOT damage at a maximum chance of 50%. That last part was just enable crit DOT, but I'll be straight with you all. DOT at its stand right now needs a lot to stand shoulder to shoulder with Break, FUA and Yobi team, and Mihoyo has opened the floodgate by making HMC super broken! Is it better, guys?
なんかさっきより下手。
Putting my lack of comedic talents aside, that is how I would like to see them getting buffed. Unlike many other gacha locked units, Mihoyo shouldn't have any qualm to buff this path since everyone will get them. I think if everyone gets a premium free stuff, the player are more willing to spend on gacha to roll for specific unit that complement MC or MC enables because, well, it's almost there now, so why not, right? That's how weird human is. Let me know if the change I wish these two to have is underpower, or way too overpower, or you have different idea of buffing them. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for bearing with me until this point. I hope you guys will have a good night and a great day ahead of you. Bye bye!